And so we're back to questions again, which is where we started.
You know, in all the films you see, like, famous landmarks get destroyed. Have you ever destroyed anything like model-wise famous or CGI destroyed?
We destroyed Big Ben for Doctor Who Series 1 a couple of years ago, which was a nice, iconic shot, which they said if we got it right, they'd put in the trailer, and they did. And they've used it almost every year since that particular shot. It's a very, very well used shot in Doctor Who, so that was a nice one to do. I've destroyed the Leaning Tower of Pisa many years ago for a QED. Destroyed any buildings? Yeah, Big Ben and the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Will that do? Famous buildings? Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah, another one back now.
Apart from sticking things on your head, do you do anything for your own amusement, like build models or do shots? Do you just for your own amusement?
No, I just stick things in my head. I don't know about the others. I mean, it's one of those things. It's that when your hobby transmutes into your job, does it stop you taking any enjoyment out of doing it as a hobby? And as a kid, I certainly used to build an awful lot of models, whether they be Airfix kits or Lego kits, and then you get into the business of filming them. And my childhood, my dad had a Clockwork Standard 8 camera, which I used to film lots of models being set fire to or blown up or trying to do stop motion with them. And then I discovered that somebody would actually pay me to do that and decided to turn it into a career. So I have to say I don't do, outside of work, much building of any sort of models or anything like that at all these days. It's the same. Oh, Alan does.
I am the sad geek, I'm afraid, who not only does this for a living, but I do it for fun. So I've got numerous half-built things around my workshop, and I still draw and paint and sculpt things, which I hope at some point to take into a professional capacity and sell on or do for my own amusement or put in galleries or whatever. But yes, I still make things and enjoy it thoroughly. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I just build cars and grow beetroot. Nick's been renovating a 1930s flat for the past, 23 years?
Yeah, I would say doing this job, I don't find you get a lot of free time. It's a case of once you've been working on something, you don't really want to be doing it when you get home. So you try and do something that divorced from what you're doing during the day. I mean, like Mike, I did the same thing. I just like making models and setting fire to them, and also making Super 8 films, which I think we all do. And you talk to a lot of the people in this industry, they sort of did similar things. I think that's where it all starts, and you never really grow out of it. So you're pretty much still doing what you did as a kid.
Perhaps at the next convention, whenever that happens to be, we can bring in our Super 8 films to show from.
Anyone else?
You guys ever feel a little bit sad? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. There's one there first.
Do you guys ever end up building something that has to be blown up or destroyed that you didn't intend on being blown up or destroyed?
They've set fire to me a couple of times.
No, I mean it's a common question. You spend weeks making this thing and then you blow it to pieces. Do you feel sad? It's like no, by the time you press the button, you're sick to fucking death of it. So no, on the whole, that's what they're built for. What's depressing is if you film it and the film doesn't come out, or there's a problem with the negative, or it doesn't blow up the way you wanted. That's frustrating. But if what you get back is a bit of footage that's spectacular, then it's done its job, and you've got that as a record of what you did. You don't need the actual model, because where would you put it? I mean, if we kept everything we've built over the years, we'd need a warehouse as big as this hall.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Time after time, where it's exactly the opposite of what you've asked. You build something, it takes thousands of pounds of money, hundreds of man hours, and it's either cut from the film completely, or it's down to such a few seconds that you wonder why it was ever scripted in the first place. And that's happened on a number of features I can remember. Certainly the Snowcats in AVP, the Vogue city sequences in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy were cut back to a minimum. Huge amount of man hours that never made it on screen at all. So it's the other way around, if anything.
the opposite happened on Atonement, strangely enough, didn't it? A huge amount of effort was put into the model, and these guys did a fantastic job building a half-scale tube tunnel, stairs, railings, and individually mounted tiles, which looked fantastic. I defy anyone to tell it's actually a miniature. We did the shot, the director and DOP came down, we lined up the shot, everything was all agreed. The huge water rig dumping thousands of gallons of water worked, just about. The model stood up to 4 or 5 takes, I think it was, and it didn't look like it was going to fall to bits, which when you consider the weight of the water coming through it was quite an achievement. And the shot was used in its entirety in the film. Admittedly, it was an expensive shot. It also demonstrates the difference between working on a feature film and TV, whereby they spent how long on the model?
3 days.
No, the actual building.
Oh, 5 weeks.
5 or 6 weeks. Yeah. 5 or 6 weeks.
5 or 6 week build for 5 seconds screen time.
I think it's a bit longer than 5 seconds screen time in the end because they hold it quite a long time. But yeah, it's a 5 or 6 week build, 3 days lining up, lighting, and then shooting, and they got their money's worth in it, and it was great. And I mean, Mike and I have been working together for 20 years, and he finally got the opportunity to take me up the Staines bypass.
Question in the